Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for May 18th, 2016. If you'll please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Father in heaven, I thank you so much for this wonderful community of Canby and all the people in it. I ask you on behalf of the council for your wisdom, your vision, your courage as we help the great people of this town to make it the best place it can possibly be. And we ask you to bless all those who stand willingly in harm's way to serve us in our community and to protect us. And I ask you to just bless and to protect our wonderful city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Tim.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Communications.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. All right. Our first opportunity this evening for citizen input and community announcements on anything non-agenda related. I have two cards here that are non-agenda items. Miss Irene Brashear, would you like to come up? Hello, how are you?
Oh, good evening. I'm fine. My name is Irene Brashears. I'm the chairman of the Postal Service National Food Drive here in Canby, and I just wanted to come back to you to report on Saturday, May 14th, we had our food drive, and the rain held off, and we were so glad. We ended up with 10,004 pounds. And so usually we have a residual, like, you know, I always tell you. So as of yesterday, I had a station wagon full, and I went back to the food bank this evening, and they said, wow, we ended up with 10,384 pounds, which was really wonderful because last year we only collected 7,314 pounds, so there was a huge increase because of that postal glitch. So I just want to say thank you so much to Canby, to the council, to the mayor, everyone here to make it that we made it a great success, and they were just happy as can be at the food bank.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work on it.
Oh, no. It's just a great pleasure that we help one another here. Rotary was there. Let's see. The young people from the Mormon Church was there. Tons of volunteers, retired carriers were there. It was incredible. So thank you again very much.
Thank you for that, Irene. Thank you very much. Next non-agenda, I have Robert. You wanted to talk to us about Maple Street?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Just fine. I just wish to kind of bring this topic to the council's attention. I wish to share my concerns about the state of Maple Street itself. I've been a resident there since 1992, so fairly long time. My concerns are really twofold. One is the actual state of the roadway itself. If anyone was to take time to drive down, what I'm sure all of you guys have, because that's a fairly busy roadway, there's many potholes, some pretty bad. So the roadway itself is in poor shape. I hope to return to the council after I do a little bit more investigation, in the sense that I hope to be able to document, because as I drive around Canby, especially on the north side, I think it's one of the poorest maintained roads on most of the thoroughways around. Yet, the secondary point about that street, is that it has one of our biggest parks, Maple Street Park, and it is very well used, and it's a very popular destination. On top of that, that street doesn't have any sidewalks on it, which befuddles me, because it should be a target for all of the kids and families that are using that park. I think it represents a big liability for the city and for everyone else there. I hope to do more work, but I wanted to bring to the council, at least in doing my short 3 minutes, an alert about this situation, and hope to return in another month to give you a little bit more feedback about it. Lastly, it does present a dilemma, one extra dilemma. My wife and I went to the planning department the other day, only to find out that it's a real unique situation. Last council meeting, you talked about needing to meet with the county about roadways that are of equal jurisdiction, or the county has jurisdiction over. Maple Street is unique. It has half its roadway, a city, and half a council, the county. Not only half the road, between territorial and tent, half the road is city and half the road is county. Now that is really bizarre. And I can't help but imagine that contributes to the dilemma of that street. But it is an issue that we should find a solution for. So I ask for your thoughts about this, and I will return.
Please do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Robert, thank you. Actually, so a couple weeks ago, the council did a retreat, and one of the topics that we talked about was the road situation in Canby, and specifically how we need to be working with the county, or what we can be doing to try to get some of those county roads to the point where we can take them back, or take them not even back, but just under our jurisdiction, to make sure that they are maintained and that they are done correctly and meet our city standards. And that was a lengthy part of our conversation. I'm seeing, Rick, is there anything that?
Yes,
on that?
and since the retreat, I have had one meeting with County Public Works staff and initiated conversation about the steps involved in bringing the county roads up to city standards so that we would be able to take them into our city system. Maple is actually not unique. We have a number of streets, a little over 3 miles of streets where we share jurisdiction, or we have everything except the street itself is within the city, and so we're working to solve that. It's not going to be done overnight, but it's something we're aware of, and we're actively looking for a solution to it.
I appreciate that. But the problem is that even the city side of the street isn't well maintained. So, I mean, we've got a dilemma that, we need to address somehow, be it some priority as far as what all the streets are. Anyway, I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Please be back.
All right. Thank you. Moving into mayor's business, just a couple of things. I want to thank everyone. At the beginning of the month was the mayor's prayer breakfast, and I just want to thank all the churches that were involved and all those that attended. It was a great turnout. I think we ended up with another new record of over having 100 people attend the breakfast, which was great. So that was great to see. So thank you for all those that attended. We had First Friday kickoff for the season, for the remainder of the year. Well, gosh, now almost 2 weeks ago. Great job by our Main Street manager. We had a great, kids loved the scavenger hunt, and that was a good deal. And then the addition of the vendors in the park was a great add. They were great, glad to be down there, and they actually saw quite a bit of business down there. So they're anxious to have that continue throughout the season. And then last week I had an opportunity to meet with Senator Wyden and tour of JV Northwest. The opportunity to talk with the owners of that company and talk about their growth, what they've got planned for them. We also talked about some of their job challenges or employment challenges. And then they've been able to attract a fellow business to Canby's that they have set up literally like right across the street from them. So they're able to, this business is actually in the nursery side of things, which is kind of a new endeavor for JV Northwest, but it's adding, will add jobs and another source of revenue for JV Northwest. So it was great to meet with the senator and get a tour of that business. So that's kind of been lighter than usual stretch for me, but that's good. We'll move it over to Councilor Rocha for his report.
Nothing for me tonight.
All right. Councilor Parker?
Mayor, just one thing. The Bridging Cultures, the intercultural organization that I know you've attended and Councilor Hensley has attended, is starting up its series this year, next Saturday, starting at 11:30 at Locust Street Park. Come on by. There is such a thing as a free meal, and get to know some of your fellow citizens.
Now, is it hot dogs or is it the carnitas?
Well, that's always a question on what's going to be served.
Carnitas are always so good.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hensley.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Well, we didn't go to C4, as you know, because of the budget meeting, so there's no report there from either of us. I do have a shout out, I shall say. A CTV5 report will consist of one, Tony informed me that we have the HD equipment and they're in the process of transferring to HD, so CTV5 is getting an upgrade. But this is the fun part. Giovanni Lopez, high school student here, is an intern at CTV5, has participated in the Duralife Unlocker Challenge. It's a national high school video contest, and he took second place. So he was awarded $10,000 grant for new lockers at the high school,
Wow.
and $5,000 in scholarship money. So that's pretty fun. So congratulations to Giovanni. Good job. We have our the board meeting tomorrow, so I'll have a further report next time. Southwest Canby Neighborhood Association has their bylaws meeting tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Hope Village. There was a notice in the paper about that. I just wanted to remind folks of that. I likewise attended the prayer breakfast and the ribbon cutting for Judson Roy across the street from us here. And First Friday, I've talked to several vendors at the park, and they're very excited to be there, and they're really looking forward to having that continue First Friday through the summer season. So that was a good ad, like you said. I look forward to seeing that kind of increase too. I think that we'll find more vendors will show next time. And finally, the auxiliary community breakfast at the American Legion on Sunday morning at 8:30 to 11:30. It's the last one of the season, so no more gravy till September. Okay? $6 for adults, $3 for kids. And the proceeds this time are going to scholarships. So come join us down on Sunday. That's all I have.
Is there a way to get the gravy in a container?
I might be able to hook you
All
up.
right, okay. I just wanted to double check. It's a long time.
Use the first street entrance. It's the gate on the side streets.
Perfect.
That's
Thank
all
you.
I have. Thanks.
Council President Dale.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to report that the City Budget Committee had 4 meetings this spring to go over the city budget, and we did and approved it, and it will be coming up to council in June. Correct, Kim? And I just want to thank all the members of the Budget Committee. We have members that are the council and from the public who devote their time to helping us in that very important process, and especially my thanks to Haley Fish, our finance director, for the incredible amount of hard work that she does to make that process smooth, and of course to Rick Robinson, our city administrator, who's also our budget officer, and he and Haley put it all together. So it went the smoothest you and I can remember, I think. Any of us up here can remember. So that's on the way. Next up, I don't want to steal too much of Clint's thunder, but I will just say that purchasing rodeo tickets online works really, really well. I can testify to that personally. On the Canby utility front, Canby Utility has engaged Group McKinsey, one of the premier architectural and construction companies here in Portland, to begin architectural design on their new facilities that are on the south side of town on 4th and Pine. They're not starting construction. This is just architectural design, so that process has begun. I'd like to give a little bit of a shout out. Larry Hepler has retired from Canby Utility. He's been their operations manager for a number of years, and we wish Larry the very best as he starts out on a new, less stressful chapter of his life. He's been a great guy for Canby Utility. Oregon Health has completed their triennial scheduled inspection of all of our water treatment facilities, and Canby Utility passed with flying colors. Just letting everybody know that's happened. On the taste and odor issue, Canby Utility continues to work diligently on that, and their administrator will be bringing a recommendation to the board at the June meeting for next steps in that process. So stay tuned there. We had a couple outages that were pretty significant in the last month, power outages, that is. One was a section of underground cabling that had given out, and that's already been replaced. And the other was a tree coming down, and there's not a lot you can do about that when it happens. And it was a particularly long repair because it took down power lines, and so utilities had to come out as well. PGE was actually involved on this one. But Canby Utility wanted to make sure that Mark Gunther, our Public Works Director, and Rick Robinson knew that they deeply appreciated the help the city gave them in clearing that tree. Just another great example of how the two agencies work together to keep our citizens up and going with power. And then finally, Canby Utility, another brag on them. They are donating a water fountain to our new library and civic building. It'll be in the downstairs lobby, and you can say ho-hum, a water fountain, no big deal. But a public water fountain that is of that volume is chilled and, no humor intended, filtered, is expensive, and the value is almost $4,000, and they are donating that to the project. And so our thanks as a council and as a city to Canby Utility for that donation. And that concludes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Can I add to his report?
Sure.
Well, just that you've mentioned the odor and taste, and Canby Utility Board is having informational meetings on that on June 2nd. It was on their website.
Oh, it is up.
Yes.
I wasn't sure I could say it. So
Thursday, June 2nd, 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. at Cub. It's 154 Northwest 1st Avenue.
that's right. And so they've intentionally have an afternoon and an evening meeting to try to get around everybody's work schedule. So come and see that. Canby Utilities Chairman, Gary Potter, and their General Manager, Dan Murphy, will be there along with other staff to answer all your questions, to show you pictures and charts and what they're going to do about it going forward. And that was, again, June 6th?
June 2nd.
June 2nd,
Thursday.
excuse me, on Thursday. And that's at Canby Utility. That won't be here. It's just across the parking lot over here behind us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Hyatt.
All right. So with the library, the county did their fines for food thing like we did in February, right? So it's a countywide LINCC food waiver thing. And they brought in, so our library brought in 790 pounds. So again, the citizens came forward. So we did Stamp Out Hunger recently, like Irene said, and then we did food for fines, or fines for food, and they waived like $500 worth of fines again. So that was a nice, good community outreach. They're partnering with the school district. I think I mentioned this last time, but again, the library and the school district are working closely together. I like to kind of reiterate that. And the next front here is that summer reading program. So they're launching it on June 1st. All the kids can sign up. Kids, teenagers, and adults actually can sign up for the big summer reading program. But the 3 librarians are doing outreach in the elementary school. So there's just a nice relationship that's forming, I think, with the school district and the library, and I appreciate that. The Volunteer of the Year for the Canby Public Library, I learned who that was. That was Carol Wagner, who is the treasurer of the Friends of the Library. She leads a knitting class, and she does a lot of shelving work. So congratulations to her for being Volunteer of the Year there. There was a focus group last night about library services and what people want to see in their future library, that with the new library project being complete in September. And it was interesting. It was a good initiative, I think, for citizens to be able to say, like, this is what would make a library great. This is what we love about Canby. So I think there was a lot of positive input there. Irene Green will probably talk more about that in her next report. But I was glad to see she did that. And then I think Rick will talk about the library update during your report, right? So I'll save anything about shelving and whatnot for you. And then for the Canby Adult Center, they're moving ahead with their strategic planning process. So they're going to be having their focus group soon with senior citizens and other stakeholder groups. So at some point in the near future, they'll be approaching the city and us and asking for our input on that. They're also having their 50th anniversary lunch soon. That's on June 2nd. Apparently those couples that are celebrating or have celebrated a 50th wedding anniversary, 50 or more years together, go and they celebrate them. And apparently a lot of people come. So there's all kinds of senior citizens that come out to be recognized. So that's a nice opportunity for them. And they're hosting the Canby School District's Transitional Program's annual art sale. I've never heard of this, actually. But apparently it used to be at the Place to Be Cafe every spring. It's going to be on Monday from 4 to 6:30 this year at the Canby Adult Center. And they're just pleased to be able to host in partnership with the Canby School District. According Canby School District, they're hiring a new transportation system, so they're going to get new buses here in the fall. Apparently, they're propane-powered buses. There'll be some security cameras actually in there, and there's some apps, so parents can actually see GPS-wise where the buses are in town, which is kind of high-tech and fancy, but I think some parents will appreciate that. So that's what they're doing with transportation. And open enrollment, this is kind of an interesting fact. The number of students that we're bringing in for open enrollment through outside school districts for the next school year is 34, and the number of students from Canby that are going out to other school districts is 16. So we're net gaining about 18 students. So it's pretty minimal, but it's nice that there's that open enrollment relationship we have with other districts. Other things, there was a children's center luncheon at the Oregon Golf Club last week. It was a fundraiser for that group. They are a child abuse intervention center, and they raised awareness. They had a keynote speaker that it was rough to listen to, but it was great to sort of be part of that and hear about what that group is doing. They're doing good work. And then this morning, there was a Clackamas Export and Global Trade Center Summit, in Oregon City, and the speaker talked about the importance of culture and exporting. It was just a good kind of economic development lesson personally for me, but she really talked about how businesses in the county can do good outreach with their international businesses by just understanding the cultures that are out there, and how the American way of doing business is quite different from that of Asia and Europe and Africa, et cetera. It was very interesting. Renata has the slides for that, I'm sure, if you want to look into that. And then a couple races coming up. The Get a Clue Scavenger Hunt race is on June 4th, 9:30. It's sponsored by the Canby Fitness Center. It really is a scavenger hunt race. You run and look for clues. Pretty fun. I've done that in the past, but that's coming up. And then the Canby 5K. It's a fundraiser for Young Life and the cross-country team at the high school, and that's June 11th. So that's coming up. And also, this Saturday, there's something that Chinook salmon. I saw it in the paper, and I've seen it online. It's called the Rivers Celebration. It's at the community park, and it's raising awareness about salmon and water cleanliness and whatnot. But it's good for kids and families, so I wanted to make that known to people. It's from 10 to 2, and there's this like 29-foot salmon that has murals on the inside of it that you can walk in. I think I'll drag my kids and take a look inside the fish. So that's all I've got. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Councilor Height, what was the date on the 50th anniversary event at the Canby Adult Center?
Yeah, June 2nd. I don't know what time, but lunch. So yeah, noon.
And then on the, is that a new bus company for Canby School District?
They put it out to bid. They've been talking about doing that. So it was for student, I think, for many years. So that's that's news. Yeah. Okay, so is First Student then vacating the bus barn and then new company moving in, or? Good question.
Do we need to find that home for the new bus company?
I don't know.
Okay.
It is nice that they are switching from diesel to propane. That's going to be quite a carbon offset.
Interesting.
It's actually, and maybe I can provide a little more detail. It's my understanding that the current bus yard is owned by the district, and so the buses that are there will be moved out, and then the new company will bring their buses into the
That
yard.
makes sense.
Perfect. That was just a question that occurred to me, like, how do you swap that out? But that explains how you do it. All right. Thank you.
Coincidentally, had a conversation about that yesterday with somebody, so I think my answer is correct.
All right. We learned something new tonight. Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I also attended the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. It was a very well-attended, great event. And also the City Budget Committee meeting. And along with Councilor Parker and Councilor Hensley, we all attended the ribbon cutting at Judson Roy across the street. Really nice furniture store and really nice folks that operate that. On 5/9, I attended the Planning Commission meeting, and they approved the following. So it's kind of a timely topic to talk about Birch, given these annexations. They approved a annexation and zone map amendment for 1.85 acres. They approved an annexation for 4.57 acres, which if that 4.57 acres were to be built out, it would be R1.5, so a higher density. And then they also approved annexation for 31.8 acres
all on North Redwood. And so the next steps, if let's say a developer were to come along and acquire those properties, or if the owners were to want to develop them themselves, they would need to put together a plan and come before the Planning Commission once again and get approval. But that's a pretty significant step. And our next Planning Commission meeting is this next Monday, May 23rd. On the traffic safety update, one of the things I think might be helpful for folks to know is what is the process that the traffic safety group does. Many times we have citizens come to us with a variety of traffic safety problems in and around Canby. We review every problem. We have great help from the city administrator, the police department, police chief, and traffic officer. We get tremendous help from the fire department, public works, and just tremendous citizen involvement. And, unfortunately, we're not able to solve every problem that comes across the desk, but we sure do our best to deal with them. We try to look, what's the best solution that for this particular problem. We discuss all the different options and keeping in mind that budgets are tight. And then if there is a consensus about a possible solution, the group will vote on it, and if that is proved, then we are an advisory group, so then it goes to the city with our recommendation to proceed. And so the Birch Street humps were just that. We talked an awful lot with the city, the public works, with the fire, the police. Had tremendous input from the city administrator. Actually went out into other communities, many in and around Sherwood, Tigard, Beaverton, Gresham. In fact, in many cases, we actually stopped and talked to folks that have the humps, and so they're different. There's bumps, humps, cushions, and tables, and and trying to come up with the right solution to recommend was really helpful to work with the police and fire and the city administrator, and so that's kind of how this has come before you. Another thing I wanted to just touch on is some of the things that the traffic safety has addressed in the last several years. We sought ODOT approval for speed limit reduction on North Territorial from 35 to 30 miles per hour. I consider that personally one of our greatest accomplishments. We approved a four-way stop at Sequoia and Township right by American Steel. We approved recently a four-way stop at North Ivy and 10th Street. We've worked with the city and public works on safe routes to school. In fact, Birch Street is a safe routes to school. We've worked on lighted crossings. In fact, one of the big projects we're very, very proud of is we worked very hard with public works and the city to really get that safe routes to school, sidewalks, and crossing in front of the high school. That was a really big accomplishment, and I think the high school is quite pleased with that. We worked with the east side neighbors when the Sequoia Bridge was about to open because they were in anticipation of quite a bit more traffic, and so they really were kind of the model street for some new signage. And Councilor Hensley's been terrific support. She was the liaison for a good period of time. We've approved, and as I say, numerous lighted crossing signs at schools in and around Canby. We recently sought ODOT approval for speed limit reduction on Township, and that was approved. We talked to folks. For example, we had some citizens that came that had an accident at 2nd and North Ivy, and really appreciate the city going out with the public works, and they really worked hard to come up with a solution to try to improve the safety there. And one of the things coming along is going to be a lighted crosswalk there, which will make that safer.
North Elm.
North Elm, I'm sorry. Thank you. So we've worked, basically, continue to work with the city, public works, police, fire. So it's a hard-working, dedicated group of individuals who really work hard to improve and keep the traffic safety in our community a good thing. One more thing I thought might be pretty timely is given the developments going on, you got Northwoods development that's being built out. You've got quite a good-sized development on Pine Street. You've got apartments going in on Territorial. You've got a very likely new homes going in on Redwood. those new homes represent cars, and they represent trips, and they represent anxious drivers. And so one of the things I wanted to share, so that you folks know that we're just not a good old boys group that gets together, drinks coffee, and tries to come up with obnoxious changes. Northwoods had an independent group do a study on Birch Street, and this is actually 2013, so these numbers are going to be down. But they took a look at the speed of drivers on North Birch Street, and they discovered that the majority of drivers are traveling 7 to 8 miles an hour over the posted 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and about 4% of them, which if you use some of the current numbers, would be closing in on 200 cars a day, are going over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. In addition to that, there's been reports of cars passing on that street, if you can imagine that. And again, that's a safe route to school, and most of the folks that use that are not citizens of Canby. They're commuters. They're not going downtown, getting gas, getting their hair cut, getting a bite to eat, which is really one of the things we wanted them to do. And so I am very much in favor of the humps. In fact, I could tell you a story. I have a good friend of mine I went out to see recently in Gresham, and he lives off of Stark and Evans Street. And as I was traveling down Stark Street, I'd turn onto Evans, and you're immediately greeted with a series of speed humps. So when I went to visit him, I said, "Why did your neighborhood put in these speed humps?" And he said, "Well, you know, we had a terrible speeding problem. We had people coming down Stark Street going about 40 miles an hour, and they'd come into our neighborhood and just figure they could continue on at 40. And so people were continuously calling the police department, and the police cannot be there all the time. And so they determined that putting in these speed humps, which if you go the correct speed, they're really not a problem. But if you don't, they can be obnoxious. And they're actually referred to in studies as silent police officers. And so that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. That'll save us some time here a little bit later. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for your updates. We'll move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda, which includes approval of the minutes of the April 29th, 2016 City Council work session and the approval of the minutes of the May 4th, 2016 City Council regular meeting. The regular minutes of the April 29th City Council meeting will be approved in June.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which include the approval of the minutes of the April 29th, 2016 City Council work session and approval of the minutes of the May 4th, 2016 City Council regular meeting. And we will see the other minutes in the next meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0. All right, we'll move into our public hearings this evening. We have two of them. The first one is regarding the installation of speed humps on Birch Street between Territorial Road and Northwest 9th. And the other one is the update to the master fee schedule. So we will take those in order. I've been duly noted and told that I need to read the legislative public hearing format. So I will do that now. The matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow comment card and give it to the city recorder. These lovely cards here. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your hand at this time. If you're willing to, okay. I have your cards up here. I will call you when the time is right. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In so doing, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions must be directed through me, the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Staff report, questions, if any, by the hearing body or other staff members. I will open the public hearing for testimony. Proponents will have not more than 3 minutes. Opponents, not more than 3 minutes. I will close the public hearing. There'll be any additional questions by the hearing body and then discussion. Decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future, and this will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Any questions about the procedure of the hearing? I will just comment that this is an unusual public hearing. This is not a legislative or quasi-judicial decision that's being made here this evening, but we have to read the format. We wanted to give everyone the opportunity that wanted to make public comment or testimony on the topic, make it available, so that's why we have to do the public format. At the end of this conversation and presentation, we will then make a decision, which will probably more likely end up back to our city staff to look at and make a decision from there. So any questions on that matter? Joe, anything that I need to clarify or needs to be clarified?
No, I think that covers it.
All right.
Well done.
We will then go into the staff report.
Yes, thank you, and I will acknowledge that that this matter is receiving a higher level of scrutiny than would typically be provided in what in fact is an administrative decision. And I appreciate the council and the mayor accommodating me and bringing this matter forward in a more formal manner. My ultimate recommendation will be that following the input that you received from the public, you will refer this matter back to the city administrator and with the direction to handle it as an administrative matter, which in fact is appropriate given the facts of this particular subject matter. I had elevated this to a level higher than would typically be done because there seemed to be so much interest in the general discussion throughout the city of Canby of speed humps, in speed hump design, and in locating the appropriate locations for speed humps in Canby, if in fact they are appropriate at all in the community. And so I spent quite a bit of time in conversations with our public works staff, with our engineers, and with others in trying to gain a better understanding of the value of and exposure associated with speed humps. I've got a 3 or 4 part presentation that I'll make up here at the board, mostly to help me step through for you and for members of the audience and those persons who might speak. My intent here is to try to address some of the issues that were raised by the written correspondence that we received over the last several days, and maybe to clarify some questions that were asked and perhaps some misconceptions that are part of this process. So if I may, I'm just going to move out here. So we have received several questions about how you design a speed hump and what some criteria is. And we've enlisted Kern McLeod, our contract engineers, to work with us in designing speed humps. And we didn't start from scratch relative to how speed humps would be designed. As a matter of fact, we, the city and staff and interested persons, made trips to several cities outside of our community and looked at speed reduction methodologies that were available in different communities to see what seemed to work and what didn't work, what caused problems, and what types of speed deterrent and traffic deterrent tools might be available to us. I'm not sure whether I should turn my back to the council or the audience here, so I'll just turn my back. I will say that that this design that we have adopted as the city's design for speed humps, and there are speed humps and there are speed cushions, and there are different ways to approach traffic reduction, traffic speed reduction, and others. But for this purpose, we have adopted a speed hump design that has already been adopted by the cities of Beaverton and Portland, has been used in many installations, and has proven to be successful in its desired and intended outcome, and that is to reduce speed in areas that have experienced speeds consistently above the posted speed limits. The design of the speed hump is that it is 14 feet long. It is called a parabolic design, meaning it goes from flat up to a maximum of 3 inches and then back down again to flat over a 14-foot traveling path. The width of it in this particular street, the street is 40 feet, so the width of the speed hump is 36 feet, which allows for the flow of water and runoff down the drains and the curbs, and so you don't get water back up, and you don't have problems with the movement of rainwater and such. The signage is very well delineated and explained in the code. In our case, we're required to have signs indicating speed humps are in the line of travel, a minimum of 100 feet behind the first speed hump, and we're also intending to print on the street itself an indication of the speed hump, and then we have arrows that will indicate the direction of travel on the speed hump itself. So there's very high visibility for the speed humps, and these will happen at each of the various speed humps. In the city, in the North Birch Street design proposal, this allows for up to 6 speed humps between Northwest Territorial and Northwest 9th Avenue. We've had conversations with, we've been asked why this didn't extend out to Knightsbridge Road. The answer to that question is we had conversations with Canby Fire, our emergency responders, and this is a major response route for Canby Fire. We did not want to do anything to impede that response route of Canby Fire. So well-marked, well-lettered, and the design is a well-accepted design intended to be traveled comfortably by persons traveling the speed limit, the posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour. So, as I had indicated in this depiction, we have, relative to this particular proposal to construct speed humps, we have identified 6 potential locations between Northwest Territorial Road and Northwest 9th Avenue. Studies of traffic volumes have been conducted, the most recent being in 2014 and 2015, which showed northbound average daily traffic at 1,435 vehicles and southbound average daily traffic at 1,937 vehicles. Councillor Coleman has already talked to you about what the speeds are on North Birch. 85th percentile is 33 miles an hour. 85% of the vehicles traveling on North Birch in the areas measured were traveling above the posted speed limit. 34% of those were were greater than 5 miles above the posted speed limit, and 4% were greater than 10 miles above the posted speed limit, and that is an engineered study. Interestingly, at the conclusion of that particular study, the recommendation was for the installation of speed humps on North Birch. This is an independent study, by the way. The other possible methodology to compel or encourage a reduced speed or the flashing speed sign that you see in different places that has been shown to be effective at times. So those are the two areas that, or the two possible remedies to positively affect the travel in that area. North Birch is classified as a neighborhood route, and this is our transportation system plan, and has been identified, being a neighborhood route has been identified in our transportation system plan as a candidate for speed humps as well. And this is our 2010 study, the most recent TSP that we've done. And so this kind of defines the project scope relative to the North Birch project. And then finally, the recommendation to you, the decision body, is to open the public testimony process so you can accept comments in favor of and in opposition to the Traffic Safety Commission's recommendation to install speed humps on North Birch per the map as we've identified here, and following receiving public input to refer the matter back to the city administrator for final determination.
Rick, we do have a speed table over on Southeast 13th. What do we know the height of that one?
That is a really good example of a really bad example.
Well, it's better since it's been changed.
It's better since we changed it, and the difficulty, and it's more than 3 inches. And it's not designed to a standard. It looked like and this predates me, but I did some research on it as we tried to work with Public Works and Canby Fire to find a way to help get their emergency responders over that particular speed hump without damaging their apparatus. It is greater than 3 inches. It was really designed first as a crossing and a decorative piece on 13th, and only incidentally as a, and I believe that there was an intent to slow down traffic, but it wasn't done from an engineered perspective. It was done primarily for an aesthetic perspective, and then I think to make a very strong statement, which while well-intended, has some fairly significant unexpected consequences.
Yes, Councilor.
Rick, explain the percentages again. There, the 4% are above 10 miles per hour, and that's
Above the 25 mile hour, or so 4% are going more
exceeding,
than 35 miles an hour.
And that's of the combination, adding the two, 1,400 trips one way and 1,900
Right.
the other.
Right.
So that means on any day we could write 125 tickets on that street.
Yeah.
Why don't we?
Because we only have so many law enforcement officers to do. And it takes 20 minutes to write a ticket, so you have to get back and get set again and wait
Well,
for
that's
the next
$2,000 a month,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And they do bring in some revenue.
They bring in a lot of
And these are people
revenue.
breaking the law, and we seem to have identified a place where the law is being broken.
Yeah. So we have, and that's good that you brought us back to this, the DKS study. And I think that there are two really relevant factors. The 85th percentile at 33 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour speed zone does show that there is a defined problem. 85 above the posted speed limit. Fully a third of the people traveling Birch during this measurement period, and this was in 2013, were going 30 miles an hour or more.
And I don't want cheap stops at 5 miles an hour, but at 10 miles an hour over in a
4%.
residential area, you know, that's...
4% of 4,000 people a day, roughly.
Question. So that says 85% above posted. Is that what the number is?
Yeah, 85% are traveling above 25 miles
So
an
it
hour.
could be 26, 27,
Yes.
all of those.
Yes, and 34% are traveling at 30 miles an hour or more, and 4% are traveling at 30 miles an hour or more, and 4% are traveling at 35 miles an hour or more.
And if I could add to that, Rick, too, the peak times in the morning is between 7 and 8 a.m., and in the evening it's between 5 and 6 p.m.
So you wouldn't be taking a lot of police time away
No.
from the patrols.
But it would definitely slow down seeing the flashing lights.
Any other comments or questions? Questions for staff?
I have a question for Rick or Mark. Do we know if Birch is engineered and constructed for these traffic volumes, or is that even a factor in the discussion?
Birch is designated as I'm trying to remember the specific designation that it has, and I do have it here somewhere. It's a residential. Mark, do you remember? I actually brought it. What's the? It's not a collector. No, it's not a collector.
No.
It's a neighborhood street is what it is, but there are two categories of neighborhood streets, and I'm sorry, I don't have that with me, but it's a neighborhood street is what is classified as.
If I could add,
No.
So yeah, my kind of where I was going is there a concern from a city council perspective that
Neighborhood route.
that city taxpayers are having to compensate for an accelerated lifetime on a street for the sake of non-resident commuters' convenience?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because the clear answer is yes, but under all circumstances, we would expect that the traffic is going to travel either through there or through an alternate route through the city. The primary route, the collector in that region of the city is Holly,
Okay.
and the connection is Holly to Knightsbridge. And so there isn't a simple answer to that question because the traffic is still going to travel down that path.
if I could add to that too, Tim, you know, one of the beneficiaries of all this traffic is that little leg between Birch and Holly, and that's very much inequipped to handle that volume of traffic. And so I think that's, and then I think a lot of people, you know, when we're talking about this conversation, some folks might not be aware that Birch is a street that was scheduled to be repaved. It's on one of our streets to be repaved, and in talking with Public Works, that seemed to be the most appropriate time to consider something like this. And the way we fund these street improvements is through our gasoline tax. So we're not going out and borrowing money, and we're not putting in speed humps just as an experiment. We're actually doing this part of a planned maintenance project around the city.
Yeah, we made an affirmative decision to not do the overlay on Birch Street until we had a clearer picture of the direction we might go with this, and then if speed humps will go on Birch Street, they'll go on during the time we're resurfacing the street.
Rick, question: did we done the? Have we look? I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Have we looked at similar to what we've done on 13th with the flashing speed signs and those measures as well before going to the speed tables or humps or whatever we're calling them today.
Well, we put the mobile speed sign out, and we've noticed that it has slowed traffic. And so we don't have that type of a device on North Birch. The goal is twofold relative to addressing the issue on North Birch. One is to encourage travelers, vehicles that are traveling down North Birch to follow the posted speed limit. The other is to hopefully redirect some of that traffic to our collector roads rather than traveling through a neighborhood route.
So then are we diverting the problem to elsewhere?
Well, we have designated, you're diverting some of the traffic elsewhere, but it's those areas that are specifically designated for higher volumes of traffic. And if the underlying question is, do we create a bigger problem? Well, I think given the fact that we're seeing higher volumes of traffic because we do have pass-through motorists every day going to and from work, that we're seeing higher volumes than we originally anticipated in any event, and we'll be updating our transportation system plan over the next year or two to begin to take a closer look at that. But right now, North Holly is the street designated to handle this traffic and has been identified as a collector where North Birch is designated as a neighborhood.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, Councilor, yes.
Why is it Holly and not Birch that's designated as a collector? How do you define the difference between those?
North Birch is not a through street. I mean, it dead ends at, it doesn't go downtown. It dead ends at Knightsbridge and at Territorial. Holly travels from, virtually from the Willamette River all the way into town.
Okay.
And so it is a through street. And there was a great deal of consideration given, I believe, in the 2010 TSP when looking at the traffic flow.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a speeding problem on Holly? Have we done that study like we have here on Birch with the,
We're
percentage?
actually working on that. We've had the speed signs out. We had a complaint here 3 or 4 weeks ago that came through the Traffic Safety Commission, and so we did put out the speed signs, and I travel down Holly most days to get to and from work, and I haven't noticed as much. It's not a straight shot the way that North Birch is, and it's not quite as wide a street, so I think people tend to drive a little bit slower down Holly, but I don't know that definitively. I haven't seen the results we haven't done the traffic count yet. We've just been looking at the tally of the speed.
Any other questions of staff at this
If I
point?
could just add one more thing, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The digital speed signs that you speak of are quite expensive. In fact, we've inquired about those, and I think they would be a nice thing to have in the future, but again, they're quite expensive.
Okay. All right. No other questions? Okay, then we'll move into the public hearing or public testimony portion of it. If you had sent in emails or letters to us, we do have copies of those, so those are on the record. If you're interested in reading what came in, you can definitely reach out to our city recorder and she can provide that. We did have 19, almost 20 emails come into us about just running the gamut of statements for and against, as well as a few expressing some maybe looking at more exhaustive measures to be taken first. Councilor Coleman, we talked earlier, but there was a couple of emails about other areas that maybe need to be looked at. And
Yes.
we'll elevate those to the Traffic Safety Committee. I'd appreciate that. So we'll open it up and we'll start with our proponents. And again, as a reminder, 3 minutes each. And Council President Dale will be your timekeeper, and he'll give you a 30-second wrap-up warning by waving his hands and jumping up and down. First up for proponents is Debbie Jackson. Do you want to please come to the podium there? Councilor Coleman, can you adjust the microphone for us, please? Thank you.
So I am definitely for the speed humps. We live on the corner of 9th and Birch, actually, and we've lived in that home for 38 years, and it was a nice little neighborhood, and it's not such a nice neighborhood anymore, and we've actually considered more than once moving. We have grandkids, we have nephews that play in our front yard, and I'm scared to death that the ball's going to go in the road and they're going to go run after it. Part of my issues, I've got two. I've got one with the speed, and I also have one with the volume of traffic. The volume of traffic is insane. It starts at 5:30 in the morning. We get woke up. Our bedroom's right there on that street. We can hear the cars from Knightsbridge just by the time they're on our street, they're cruising. On May 5th, I was out in my yard and I actually witnessed a car passing going northbound on Birch. And on May 12th, I witnessed a car passing between 9th and 10th going southbound. 2 in a week. I mean, it's excessive. The amount of traffic out there is excessive. We are really considering looking someplace else. It's deafening, the sound, the amount of traffic. There was a young couple that was walking with their child recently, and I was out in the yard, and she yelled at her daughter, "Stop, stop, that's a really dangerous road, don't go there." So our neighborhood's knowing that this is a dangerous road, and this is our neighborhood. I mean, we have children here, and like Councilor Coleman said, I mean, the amount of traffic going through there, they're bypassing town. They're missing, the city of Canby's missing out. And we're in a neighborhood that has now become a freeway for commuters, and it's out of hand. So the speed humps would, in my opinion, not only help with the speed, but also maybe deter some of that traffic from using that. Every time they have to slow down or go a little bit slower, hopefully that would deter them. So I do have a question. Is there any plans on making Barlow Road a little bit better? Because that's where a lot of the traffic off of I-5 needs to go.
That is a huge question. I can tell you that has been a conversation piece that has been 20 plus years in the making. I know that it is on the county's transportation plan to look at addressing how do we make a better connection between Canby and Knightsbridge, and even drawing a blank on the street out there. No, out there by Knightsbridge, it connects into Arndt Road. Thank you. So that is in conversation. That is on the county plan. So that is something that's, we've seen a lot more traction being gained in the last couple of years over that. So timeline, I don't have one. Just that it's been an area that's been elevated in the last couple of years. So it is being looked at and worked at. Because Barlow is terrible.
Yeah, as our town grows, I mean, we need to make some changes, obviously, because Birch Territorial is truly not the answer. So I'm definitely pro humps.
All right.
So,
Thank you. Robert Lane. Hi, Robert. How are you?
So I live on the territorial end of Birch, and I have definitely witnessed the excessive speeding that goes by and the traffic that's built up since we've lived there. And I would just say that, the humps and the extra law enforcement or the signs, the flashing signs, it's not one solution to zero in on one of them. I think it's a combination of everything. I think the humps make sense because people, in my opinion, see the commute that they take as Birch and Territorial Road being kind of like a sub-highway. It's the outskirts of Canby, and they're just hurrying to get through there so they can get back to that part they can do 55 again. So, and that's the way I think they see it as they come through Birch and Territorial. So.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, really appreciate it.
Google Maps is not our friend in this, that's true.
Pardon me, but is it Sonia?
Yeah.
Sonia.
Sonia.
I'm the only Sonia here, I think.
Say your last name for us.
Carrion.
Carrion, thank you.
I live on the corner of 12th and Birch, and I've lived there since '87. Before they turned it into a nice, smooth, wide street with the sidewalks, and it was a quiet street. And as Debbie said, it is nothing to see people passing each other on that street. It's not an exaggeration. It happens all the time. And you mentioned about the police department. They park across from my house, and it's a joke. I am not making fun of them. But they see the black car. By the time they get to my house, they're going the speed limit. As soon as the police are gone, they're back to their normal routine. And as Debbie said, it starts at 5:30 in the morning, and it starts at 2:30 in the afternoon. And as I said, I've lived there since '87, and I have personally had 3 cars totaled in front of my house. And for them to say that, you know, it's a neighborhood. It was, but it's not anymore. Because these people, I used to work in Wilsonville, and I worked at Payless at their corporate office. I couldn't figure out why all these people that were, you know, friends of our acquaintances knew where I lived. Well, every time there was some sort of an accident on I-5, they would be directed to go down Birch Street, to cut across Territorial, and to get onto 99. And they lived in Milwaukee. So the Canby businesses are missing out on a lot of traffic. They're the service stations, the fast food, whatever. That's all I got to say. I'm not a good public speaker, but I am so glad you're going to put these speed bumps in, or I hope you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Jennifer, is it Borges?
I've never done this before, but I'm very adamant about doing something about the speed, the traffic, the danger to our families. I represent a family of 4. I have 2 young children. One of them is with me right now, and you probably heard him talking. And we live on the corner of Birch and Territorial. It's a very busy street, and it's very dangerous, very noisy. It is reducing our home value, and I've seen many commuters go fast. We've heard it, people just zipping down the road. You can hear it like a racetrack. And many times I'm driving down the road and going into my driveway, and they honk at me because they think I'm going too slow. I'm going 25. They've passed me. You know, people have said that cars have passed. Well, they passed me one time. I was very confused with that. It's not a place to pass people on Birch. And one time I saw, and I had forgotten about this, but I wrote it down one time, that I saw a driver pass a car in front of him on the intersection of Birch and Territorial. It's a T, and there's an island there. One car, I guess he was in a hurry, decided to pass by going on the opposite side of the road, on the other side of the island, to speed past him, because and it's in front of my house. I saw it. I'm sure there's many times that we're not outside seeing all of the danger, but we hear it with the cars speeding up. Travelers have come to realize that they can get away with it. We've lived in the house for 5 years. Many people have lived there longer in the area, and people get away with it. And it's time that something happens. The speed humps is one answer, and I hope the city really thinks hard about passing it. There's other things to help control it, but that's one of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Was you looking to do that now or after?
Let's just go ahead and do it now. Okay. Is that the last of the proponents?
Yes, we've had lots of the proponents. Mr. Chair of the Traffic Safety Committee, do you have something you wanted to add to the conversation? Mr. Backstrom?
I didn't hear you.
Mr. Bob Backstrom, did you want to have something to add there as the chair for the Traffic Safety Commission?
Well, I had prepared a statement because of that position.
Okay.
So
Yeah, if you're...
I didn't fill out a card because I didn't think I needed to.
We will accept this as a yellow card.
Thank you. My name is Bob Backstrom. I live on North Birch, and I'm also chair of the Traffic Safety Commission. And it's a wonderful opportunity, and I love doing the work. We're here to discuss Birch Street humps, but I want everyone to know that the Canby Traffic Safety Commission responds to everybody who walks through the door. We're very conscientious and we take the work seriously. This meeting tonight is a result of many years of hearing from neighbors and studying the situation. It's important to note that installing speed humps on Birch is part of an overall Traffic Safety Commission recommendation to address neighborhood trouble spots and to reduce the bypass volume, which the city administration asked our group to do. We know that there is a large number of out-of-town commuters who bypass downtown Canby in favor of our north side neighborhoods as a speedier cut-through. North Birch, which is the second leg of the north side Canby bypass, has experienced huge increases in commuters. In 2009, the city found 2,900 vehicles on Birch daily. That's 87,000 vehicles per month, 1,044,000 per year. In 2013, just 4 years later, in the Northwoods Development Traffic Study, there were 3,265 vehicles on Birch daily. That's 98,000 per month, or 1,176,000 per year. That's a 13% increase in 4 years. In those 4 years, the traffic on Birch increased by 11,000 vehicles per month. The official Northwoods traffic study mentioned found speeding and volume problems on North Birch to such an extent that they recommended a series of speed humps from Knightsbridge Road to Territorial. So today, the residential street of North Birch experiences 1.2 million vehicles per year, and that figure continues to rise. Though through dozens of phone calls, letters, and statements from Birch residents, we at the Traffic Safety Commission know that excessive volume and speed of traffic negatively affects the livability of residents in that area. Loud road noise, speeding, illegal exhaust systems, noisy mufflers, pollution, dust. Several of our neighbors on Birch complain of sleeping difficulties. Some have installed newer, quieter, expensive triple-pane windows and siding to help reduce the noise. Several complain that friends and relatives will not stay overnight. Some never open their front windows. Several complain of danger getting out of their driveways, going to the mailbox, crossing the street, chatting with neighbors. More danger every year. Some want to move, but they're afraid that their home value will be lost in the process. Many are worried about their children's safety. There are lots of children who live on Birch Street, but if you drive down that street, you'd never know it. 12 on my block alone, children, that their parents will not allow them to play in their front yards. You drive down that section of Birch and you never see children in their yards or near the street. When our grandkids came to play, they were not allowed in the front yard. I could not put a hoop on my garage door. There's a reason for that. If you had 4,000 vehicles, many speeding within 30 feet of your front door, would you let your kids out front?
We're at the 3 minutes.
You have shrubs, you're timing me?
Yeah, we're at the 3 minutes.
I hadn't prepared for that.
Sorry, we had 3 minute time limit there, so we're at our time here.
You could submit your written statement to Kim, though, and it would go in the record.
Okay, I will be happy to do that.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. We'll move into the opponents. Bruce Parker.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Parker. I live at 3460 North Holly. It's about a mile out of town. I also own property within the city of Canby. And the first point I'd like to say is we seem to have a residents of Canby versus commuters. I think we should be more encompassing. The commuters, a lot of us, do a lot of business in town. And I think they should be considered in this as well. I lived at my present residence since '82, and been going through Birch since 1971. It has always been the street where a lot of traffic off of I-5 goes through. It is nothing new. Yes, we have to be concerned with traffic. So this brings me to my first concern. If we put speed humps on Birch, you're going to divert more traffic over onto Holly. Now, part of Holly I don't live on, but those residents in Holly, if you're doubling their traffic flow, I think they're going to be more upset than they are now. We have a general problem with traffic. But I think by having the traffic divided between two streets is much better than all putting it on one. And I don't think there is much value in that. My second real concern is the precedent we set on putting speed humps on Birch. How about on Holly? How about on Territorial? How about Ivy? How about Pine, Redwood? We go through the city. Are we going to have to be a city of humps? And so, you know, my last closing point is, although I drive down the street all the time, my wife does it in second gear. Why? It's 25 miles an hour. The city police are very efficient in their enforcement. Yes, I would be concerned about that 4%. But I think the speed humps is not the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Rose Judge.
Good evening, I'm Rose Judge, and I live on the corner of Birch and 12th, so of course these speed humps affect my family a great deal. And we've been there about 15 years, and we haven't really noticed a real problem for us. Yes, people do speed, but they speed on every other street too. And yes, there is more traffic, but there's getting to be more traffic every place. So why are we picking out Birch to do the speed humps on? You know, and like Bruce was saying, if we start diverting from Birch, isn't that going to clog up some of the other streets as well? So I just think the speed humps are maybe a little excessive solution right now. One of the other neighbors and I decided to kind of get a feel for the neighborhood after we got this letter, and we walked and talked to a few of them that were available on Sunday. And we found about half and half. About half said yes, they really want them. About half said no. So I do think that maybe there needs to be a little more discussion, maybe some other solutions like stop signs or the flashing signs before you go ahead with the speed bumps. So at this point, until there's a little more, I think, information out there, we should delay the speed humps and look into some other solutions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Bill Judge.
Council, I'm Bill Judge, and she's my wife. And a lot of my questions, the questions I had were answered tonight by the technical questions. Well, what does a speed bump mean for someone going the speed limit? I wish we could get in our cars and go try one right now, because if it penalizes us who are within the limit, I'm not for them. But if it really makes it, if they're engineered to make the ride a little uncomfortable for a speeder, someone 30 or more. That's what we want. We want to keep it within the limit. And we raised 5 kids, and we're right there. We have a front yard and a hedge to maybe protect the kids a little bit, but we haven't noticed an uncomfortable amount of traffic to begin with. I just don't notice. I sleep with the window open and I hear traffic, and I can tell if they're going fast. And just recently, when this all came to mind, I didn't hear that many speeders. I would agree it probably is within that 4% that go quite a bit faster than they should. But I'd like to know if someone could explain a little bit more what a 25-mile-an-hour ride would be. Thank you.
Well, and I can speak just quickly to that you'll feel a wave. It's only a 3-inch rise over 7 feet and then back down to the service grade. And you'll hit 6 of those over a 5-block radius or 5-block range. The cities that have used them have had some considerable success with them. And the complaints come typically from those persons that choose to travel significantly faster than the posted speed limit.
Yeah, the city did change and adjusted the one out on 13th, and I've noticed that if the times I do travel the speed limit, I do float over the...
Which is all the time.
Which
Just all the time.
sometimes I have to test it. I do float over it. However, if I am so much as 5 minutes over 5 miles an hour over it's a little bit of a jarring effect to the car. And so, I mean, that's just and that was truly a nasty, like, stop, crawl over it, and then accelerate. If you've ever been out on Southeast 13th and have seen that one. But that's kind of the idea, is to be, if you are traveling the speed limit, that you will literally continue to maintain that speed the entire street and not have to slow down at all. But if you're traveling 30 miles an hour, you will noticeably feel the difference. And I thought we had set up like a test.
We do on Baker.
Okay.
Is it still there?
Yeah, it is.
You
just
can
off
go
the
drive over it then.
Yeah, so it's not like the speed bump that will rattle the fillings in your teeth if you're going even the speed limit over them, where you have to do that aspect. So I know that's the aspect that we're looking at to answer your question there, Bill. But yeah,
I tried it at 40, and there were no police officers around just to see what it would feel like at 40, and it was noticeable at 40, and at 25 it was comfortable.
Now, were you in your Ford pickup truck?
I was.
Okay.
Is this an appropriate time for me to say
You need to
something?
clarify
It's
around that.
on this subject.
Sure.
Is that okay? I read a couple of reports independently. One was from Iowa State about the humps, the 3 inchers. I had read that it reduces your speed to you have to go 15 to 20 miles an hour actually to have a comfortable lift. So I haven't personally tried out the sample on Baker or whatnot.
It wasn't
but-
my experience, and I don't believe it's the experience of the neighborhoods that have been successful in installing the speed humps in Beaverton and Portland, which are the 2 closest examples that we have. They've had virtually no complaints from the people living on the streets, but certainly commuters that want to travel faster than the speed limit are less comfortable. But now there are all kinds of variations of speed humps. There are the larger ones that can raise 4, 5, or even 6 inches, which is the case on 13th. There are also a design called a speed table, which is longer. It has a flat surface on top, and then it dips down again. So there are many designs. We tried to find one that would be appropriate, would address the issue, would encourage travelers to go the posted speed, but would not be cumbersome for those persons that were following speed laws.
I've been over the sample in a car and an SUV and a 25. Not bad.
Okay.
More than that? That's enough.
Next opponent is Peg and Dale. Pardon me. Is it Rochred?
Close enough.
Okay.
My mom could never say it. Rorschach.
Okay, thank you.
It's John. Thank you for hearing us.
Yeah.
We live on Birch. We used to live on 13th, just off of Birch, for 18 years, and we've lived on Birch now for 14 or 15 years. And my husband's a retired Portland firefighter, and of course we have the concern of that extra time you could take. If it's your house on fire, you'll care. I'm concerned about the excessiveness of 6 of them in that short span of road, and I'm concerned because you want to put one of them right in front of my driveway. I don't want it there. Who decided where they were going? Why can't the people?
We will not put a speed hump in front of a house of a person who insists they do not want it.
Okay, because I think that the fair thing to do is put them in front of the ones who don't want them, that do want
And
them.
that is our intent. What's your street address?
1160. And it's right on your little thingy that's right in front of our house.
It is no secret to any member of the Traffic Safety Committee, and I've been very clear that I would not support the installation of speed humps in front of houses where the occupants of those houses do not support them.
Okie dokie. But is 6, does that seem a little excessive on that short area?
It's actually a pretty big expanse. If you look at the distribution, and they're from 150 to 250 feet apart. Really not as close as it seems.
My other concern, thank you. My other concern is we're just transferring the problem to some other street. And what are these other streets? You're going to go through the same thing with them. They're going to be people that are for, people that are against, and it's not going to end. We have a bigger population than we used to have, and naturally we have more traffic. Thank you for hearing me.
Thanks for coming down. Just Dale.
Dale, did you want to speak? Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah.
My name's Dale Rorschach. It was a hard name for me to learn to spell, too. So my concern is I haven't heard anything about the cost of these things. Is there a...
They will cost between $2,500 and $3,000 each to install.
And how much does a stop sign cost on every other block like they've done to 10?
I think we have 3 stop signs on 10, if I recall. But
that doesn't cost much. I hate to see my tax dollar go on something that's, you know what I mean? I'm just not in favor of it at all.
Are you a resident of Birch?
Yeah. 1160.
It's
Peg's husband.
I would, yeah,
you're together.
and I would gladly let mine, the one that you have proposed in our front of our house, to go down by 1395 Birch. Or fill Bob's potholes on Maple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Pardon me? Okay. It's okay. Yeah, go for it.
To our city administrator, I'm trying to remember, have we heard testimony in the past from our police chief and maybe DKS that stop signs in and of themselves are not a good speed deterrent? They're really a traffic control device?
Yes, we have, I wouldn't call it testimony, but we have had input from Chief that as recently as today, in a separate conversation that I had with him, where speaking indirectly of this effort and possible alternatives to speed humps, and it is pretty commonly held that stop signs are not good traffic control devices, that what tends to happen is that people start getting used to them, they don't see traffic, and they stop stopping, and that's a risk that is pretty common, according to comments from the chief.
Kathy Shin? Hi, Kathy.
am a North Canby resident, and I just do want to mention that I do think we're going to have problems on other streets if we're deterring people, because it sounds like that's what kind of the goal is here with the speed bumps, is to deter use, or is that more to control speed?
Well, the goal is to control speed. If everybody were to travel 25 miles an hour and travel over the speed humps, nobody would take different speed routes, because if they take any other route in the city, the speed limit is still 25 miles an hour.
Well, I guess one of the things I just want to mention is that there's a lot of people, especially in North Canby, who are commuters out to the freeway. And so it's not just outsiders. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And as we add more units, housing units and so on, I'm not sure what the best solution is, but it's not, I'm concerned that we're focusing so many different things on Birch without considering what's going to happen to other areas. We've got the island. There's 6 signs that say 25 miles an hour, 3 on each side of the street. I noticed that the white paint that says the speed limit, that's all worn off pretty much. So I guess I'm wondering if the speed hump is, if we ought to try some other steps. I'd like to know what the cost is of the flashing sign. It looks like the speed humps, if they're about at $3,000, it's about $18,000 for those. So what is the
Flashing
cost
signs,
for
as I recall, are around $6,000 each, and so you'd be looking at, if you're going, have one in each direction, $12,000 probably to do split, to do.
So that, I would rather see us do something like that rather than the speed humps. I'm also wondering about whether is there noise when people go over those for the residents? Would they be hearing, if you've got a pickup truck going over that's got stuff in it, is it going to bump and make noise? Is that going to add to the noise?
That is a complaint associated with speed humps with people that have pickups and they have things in the back of their trucks, or they have vehicles that are filled with stuff that it can add to the noise on the street.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would just like to suggest that you look at some of those other alternatives. It sounds like you're not keen on a stop sign, but that flashing lights, repainting that pavement, which I think those, I think it's good to have both the signs and that pavement, because, people are looking around a little bit, and I think you tend to see those when you're driving right in front of you. So anyway, I would just suggest that you consider that, because there's been a lot of focus on that street, but I think, again, like some of the other people have said, you're going to be focusing then on Holly Street, and I'm just not sure that it's going to get what you want. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. Last here is Mike Himmelstrand. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Okay, I'm Mike Himmelstrand, and I live on North Ponderosa Street. And I think you've done a great job explaining this project, and it sounds like it's well thought out. So I appreciated hearing that. And I also heard all the people that live on Birch Street, and I'm sympathetic to your situation. But I'm going to offer a contrasting view here. And that is just my observations when I'm driving up and down Birch Street. I've lived here for 6 years, and I probably go up and down Birch Street a couple times a day on average. And, I know that I've known that this was an issue for several years, so, I'm really careful to drive 25 whenever I go up and down. And I watch a lot of the other cars to see what they're doing. And what I've noticed is that they're not speeding. And I know you have a bank of statistics that will, that say that there are a lot of them speeding. I'm not saying that. I'm just offering my observation, and I see that people are not speeding. I look and see if they're pulling away from me or if they're coming up behind me. And overall, to me, it seems like a smooth flow of traffic. And so I just wanted to offer that observation. That's why I came tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
One other thing. I think the thing is that I noticed about being in Canby is that overall the drivers are very courteous and law-abiding, more than other places I've lived. So, and I find them particularly patient. So
that's good. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you all for your comments and statements on the issue. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
The $2,500 speed bump cost, is that considered doing it while we're paving, or is that a standalone price if you went out and install one somewhere?
It would be as part of the project.
Okay. I know it's a different density for the asphalt. Okay.
It's part of the project. It's actually installed immediately after the asphalt overlay is done, but it's done as part of the project.
Okay. I'm sorry, I forgot. We need to close the official testimony piece, so we'll do that. And you're good. Okay, that's all right. Any other comments or questions?
Actually, I do.
Yes.
Okay, I did spend a good deal of time as liaison to the Traffic Safety Commission. And so I just wanted to assure folks, I heard some things that I wanted to address. This conversation has been going on for at least 4 years, as the Traffic Safety Commission kind of geared back up about 4 years ago with Jack Pendleton as the chair, and this conversation started. We talked extensively about many solutions: stop signs, flashing signs, speed bumps. They even talked about having these humps from 99 to Birch on Territorial, and they decided that Birch would be the best place for them rather than trying to do that onto Territorial. Plus, there was issues with the county there also, so that's why focus went to Birch Street versus a bigger project. And I wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the fire department and police department were both involved in those conversations. They did talk extensively about the deterred traffic and hydraulic effect and what that would look like. And I think that they have come up with the best recommendation for the situation at hand. It's been a very lengthy conversation with all kinds of options discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would add that the Canby Fire has taken an official position that they will never support the installation of speed humps. I don't mean to speak for the chief, but they will never support the installation of speed humps. There are proposals as this one for which mitigating measures have been identified, and so when we looked at the potential to do this as a project, we looked at the normal travel pattern for Canby Fire in an emergency response, and that's why we determined that the speed humps couldn't be installed between 9th and Knightsbridge, because that was a major travel area, and so we elected to stop the project at 9th Avenue and to not just to accommodate, but to be able to provide the additional assurance to Canby Fire that we hear their concerns and we act to mitigate them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So, there's 80% of the population, as we heard from the economic, development director of Clackamas County a few weeks ago, 80% of us are commuters, right? And so the problem is going to continue to grow as our population expands and new houses and apartments are built. So what is the long-term, is that's on the docket? You mentioned, we need a long-term traffic
Yeah, we'll update our TSP and get a traffic system plan and get a better indication from traffic engineers of the bottlenecks and the obstacles to successfully addressing the increased traffic volumes in the city of Canby. The reality is that we are going to have more difficulty moving people from north to south in Canby and from east to west, frankly, because Highway 99 and Territorial are both getting more and more impacted as well. But there is no, as every community in Clackamas County and moving further north, the city of Portland, if you drive there, you recognize that there are traffic issues that are continuing. There are traffic issues that are just starting, that are just evolving, and our role and responsibility as leaders within the city of Canby are to recognize, acknowledge when those issues occur, try to mitigate them as best we can, and also recognizing and acknowledging that there are consequences to every decision that we make, positive and negative both. And so we try to make the decision that's going to have the net positive impact on the issue that you're addressing. And that's the best you can hope for.
Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add that, the efforts of the traffic safety, and I believe speed humps are right in this, speed humps actually help the efforts of the police department, and if you go the correct speed over a correctly designed speed hump, it's not a problem for any commuter at all.
So the speed, so this is going to mitigate speed then, clearly. And then the volume, a lot of Birch Street residents are concerned about volume too. So the idea though is it will deter a lot of people because I won't want to go over them anymore, honestly. So I'm not going to take Birch as a driver. I'll retrain myself to take Holly. I can do that. But then, so I guess that's the other solution, is that they will get reduced volume too. That's the idea, right?
It could be an outcome. They could take Holly. They could take Ivy, which is a through street, and
They may stay on 99.
they may stay on 99. And Ivy is not a collector. It's a local street. I had mistakenly thought that Ivy was a collector, but in reviewing the TSP, it's not. It's just a local street, but probably better equipped to handle traffic than is North Birch. And I would say if one of our underlying objectives is to get people driving through town to actually drive through town, then redirecting them to our collector streets that will deposit them through our downtown business district isn't a bad outcome. It's not, there is no perfect solution, and the reality is that if going the speed limit is not a deterrent to traveling through Canby, then nobody is going to change their direction, because driving over a speed hump is not going to hurt your vehicle. So you have to decide whether you're going to go the speed limit on Holly or on Ivy or on North Birch or on any other street in the north part of the city, because all the speed limits in those areas are 25 miles an hour.
Any comments or questions?
Just one last one, and I'll stop. So the idea, I guess the precedent, how will we determine in future? We got a lot of emails about people concerned about, say, North Locust or near schools, North Redwood, other streets of concern. How will we gauge that? Will we be having more public hearings? I guess, where do you draw the line?
We'll have probably public meetings that the city administrator will sit in and conduct. This will be an interesting experiment and exchange, but we'll have noticed public meetings to take input from the community on future. I would not anticipate bringing it back to the council as a public hearing. And it's been very enlightening conversation for me. It was important for me to be able to understand what U.S. policymakers felt as I begin to craft a longer-term solution and address those specific questions that you've just asked, Councilor Height. How do you handle this on the next request? What are the decision matrices that we're going to apply in making that determination? And we have a step-through process for evaluating this type of different types of speed controls, and in fact, North Birch has stepped through that decision matrix, which is several pages long. As I expressed to Councillor Parker, in my view, that decision matrix tends to be a little bit subjective. However, it's probably the best tool that we have at this time, and is being used. We borrowed it from another jurisdiction, and they're having some success with it. So that would be my assumption, is that would be the direction that we would continue to go, evaluating based on stepping through the range of options and identifying the one that is the most likely to have the greatest success and least likely to cause the negative impact.
And that was my earlier direction to Councilor Coleman, is to go through those other areas that were mentioned in those emails and bring those up at the Traffic Safety Commission so they can take a look at those and add that to the conversation and what is the priority list. And that's, you know, the piece that they'll have to look at down the road, if that's going to be something that's going to warrant speed signs, or is that a speed hump issue, you know. So yeah, that'll be something that will have to be looked at. Any other comments or questions? And so with all that being said, as Rick stated at the beginning, this is really an administrative, decision piece, and I appreciate Rick opening the dialogue and having all you people show up and provide testimony. We appreciate it. It is a part of the process, and I know a lot of cities would probably not do that and would just run forth and make the decision. So I'm glad that we've done this, and we will continue to do these kinds of things going forward, because I think it's an important piece. So I think with nods of heads that we put this back on the lap of our city administrator with our feedback and whatnot. I'm sure either tonight and offline I'm sure you'll get flooded with some more conversation, Rick, on this matter. So yes, we're seeing that is okay. So we will conclude this issue before we move into our next public hearing. You're more than welcome to stay. We're going to talk about city fees and that, or I give you guys about a couple of seconds to clean out. So thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thanks for coming down.
Not lately.
Kim and Joe, do I need to reread the public hearing format for our fee worksheet?
I'm sorry.
Do I need to reread the public hearing format for the fee worksheet, or are we good to carry that over?
I think it's the same. So if you just acknowledge that you're going through the same process.
All right, perfect. We will move into our next public hearing piece, which is the update to the master fee schedule, and we will use the aforementioned read and discussed public hearing format. And we'll just start with the staff report and then move into questions. And our illustrious, that's my word of the day.
You made it.
Yeah,
yes.
Very patient.
Hello, Haley. How are you?
Hi, I am doing well.
Good.
I'm Haley Fish, I'm the finance director for the city. And I was just going to walk you through, you've received a staff report and narrative summary along with I love spreadsheets, so a spreadsheet summary of the changes, and then a spreadsheet of what the final document would look like if you adopted it as proposed. Some history is about in 2010, council came to management and asked us to summarize the city fees so that we could then be reviewing them on an annual basis. So this is nothing new. We do this every year at approximately this time of year. We bring to you an updated proposal for the city fees to be first management analyzes, and then we make recommendations to you. So I'll just walk through that narrative summary with you so you know some of the changes. I would say the biggest change is the lack of change in the sewer and street maintenance fund. Normally, for the last 5 years, based on a rate study that had been completed, we had been recommending a 5% rate increase. Over the last 3 years while I've been here, we've gone into more in-depth capital improvement planning, 5-year rolling, and we've done comprehensive amounts of work on that in this year to improve that, in addition to doing some forecasting, but that rate study did expire, and our master plans, not master fees, our master plans for those systems are outdated. The one for the sewer system was last updated in 1999. So through the budget process, this again shouldn't be new. We have included money to get an updated master plan and do a more official rate study, but based on the CIP planning and the forecast that management has completed, the current rate is sufficient to meet those 5-year needs. So at this point, we don't have, based on our studies, a reason to increase that fee at this time. Part of this was that I think that fee structure went through and they hadn't been increased for a long time, so we had to have a much larger increase. So we have gone into a lot of work to hopefully, our numbers tell us that we shouldn't get into that situation, but after the master planning, we will get an independent rate study done with that process, so that next year we can come back to you with those recommendations on an even longer term than the 5-year CIP planning perspective. So outside of that, we'll just go in order. So there's a public records change which we're simplifying to make the fee based on actual cost recovery versus previously there were some arbitrary fees. The police we're adding an admin research point because they had a flat fee that was much lower than cost recovery, so we're trying to make sure that we can recover costs there again. City cost assessment, we're going from $7 per offense to $7 per deferred sentence diversion, so it's a clarification on the basis of which the fee is charged versus a change in the fee. The court-appointed attorney has been in existence, but had been previously omitted due to oversight from the state, so we're just adding it to the schedule. It's not a new fee. The distracted driving sentence is new. It's a new program that the judge has approved, so we need to make the fee official by adding it through this process. Failure to pay alarms is more of an incentive for compliance. The alarm program is very important to our public safety individuals, so we needed some leverage to help people comply on that level.
And that, so that's a $50 charge rate?
My summary doesn't have the numbers.
Yeah, okay. There was no charge. It's basically painful enough compared to the fee to get the alarm in the first place.
think
Just
so,
pay
yes.
it, right?
You just have to have
So court changing new.
Pardon?
The permit that you have to have in your house.
This is the failure to pay.
Failure to pay $50, yes. And I believe that might be a doubling from the actual.
Yeah,
it's
just
usually
So it's-
25.
Gotcha. Okay.
If you don't pay, then it becomes 50.
Nice incentive to get the alarm
Yeah.
permit.
But again, it is important for our public safety teams to be aware of these types of businesses, because if they're expected to respond. Public Works labor rate was based off of an average of the hourly cost of, I did analysis of the actual full costing of them, and of our Public Works current employees. So we're recommending the increase. We recommended an increase last year for the first time in several years, and we're stepping that up to get to actually the $45 recommended this year. It's going from 43 to 45 is pretty close to what the full cost rate is. pickup rate, again, this was not included due to oversight. We already talked about the sewer and storm, no rate, utility rate increase recommended this year. System development charges is another one of those charges which we weren't reviewing on an annual basis for many years, and so when we did a study, we had to make a large increase. So for the last several years since I've been here, we've been recommending increases based on a CPI increase. So again, that's just a status quo increase. So there's no change to the methodology that we are using to develop those rates. Annexation, election deposit fees, a clarification versus a change fee due to legislation that's been adopted. Private on-site engineering plan review, again, a clarification versus a fee change, and that is all of the changes. So mostly it's a pretty standard fee schedule, but this is your assurance that management has looked at this fee schedule to make sure that we're not falling too far.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions for Haley?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to again commend Haley for her approach, saving our time of doing exception reporting. That's nice. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Haley.
Thanks, Haley.
I will open up the public hearing for testimony. Any proponents or opponents to this evening on the fee schedule? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Any questions or discussion pieces? Great. We will conclude that public hearing then. Thank you. Moving into resolutions and ordinances. Kim.
The first item you have is Resolution 1235. This is setting fees for services.
Great. We just heard that from our finance director. I'll take a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt Resolution 1235, setting fees for services. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Canby, Oregon, for setting fees of services. Sorry.
Great. Thank you. Can I get a second?
Someone whispered it, didn't they?
No.
Oh.
I'll second that.
I thought I'm hearing things. I thought someone said.
All right, she's calling people out.
You did raise your hand.
Motion been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Motion to approve Resolution 1235 of the City Council of the City of Canby setting fees for services. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0.
The next item we have is Ordinance 1441. This is authorizing a contract with True North Environmental for the purchase of a 2016 camera van with specific equipment, installation services, and delivery. And our Public Works Director is here to present this item.
Yes, I would like to make the recommendation that we authorize the contract with True Northwest for the purchase of a new camera van and the equipment that goes in it. As you may be aware, this piece of equipment is used extensively in our sewer system as well as our storm system. It is kind of the process by which we determine what kind of condition our pipes are in. And the one that we have it was built in 1984. It has 140 plus thousand miles on it. It has pieces of equipment that we can't even buy parts to repair at this point in time. So we are looking to replace that piece of equipment with a new camera van.
It has done a number of miles of sewer lines in the city for sure.
Yes, it has.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Mark. Questions at all? Comments?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And I've got people on the council that I've had this discussion with, but given our limitation in our budget to expand staff, I think it makes a lot of sense to provide them with equipment to be as efficient as they can. So whenever I see these sort of things that make sense and increase efficiency, especially if we have an old piece of equipment that's down,
quite often,
then that's downtime when it's not helping anyone. So I'm always favorably disposed at getting the most efficient equipment we can, given our inability to expand personnel. Let's try and make them as efficient as they can be.
Are you making a motion?
If I had my glasses on, I would.
Well, I'll make it then. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll move to adopt ordinance 1441, authorizing a contract with True North Environmental for the purchase of a 2016 camera van with specific equipment, installation, services, and delivery.
I second that motion.
He doesn't need his glasses for that.
He wasn't assigned, but okay.
Motion has been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Parker to approve ordinance 1441, authorizing a contract with True North Environmental for the purchase of a 2016 camera van with specific equipment, installation, services, and delivery. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Thank you. There's no new business this evening. City Administrator business and staff report. Anything?
Just letting you know that library construction is proceeding on schedule. We are going to be finalizing the order for the shelving in the library, and we'll be placing that order. It puts us really tight on our contingency, but we had committed to the library that those would be the first. That would be the first expenditure out of contingency beyond the building if we thought that we had any latitude at all. And that's the direction that we're moving, and so we're finalizing that order. Should have it out within a week or so, and expect to take delivery and do the installation in plenty of time to move the new books over.
Excellent. Thank you. Second opportunity for citizen input. Bob, anything? Nope. Action review.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've referred the installation of speed humps on North Birch Street to the city administrator for final determination. You've adopted resolution 1235, and you've approved ordinance 1441 to come up for second reading on June 1st.
Great. Thank you, Ken. Joe, we have an exec session this evening, yes?
Actually, Your Honor, yeah, we do. And it should be a short one, but it has to do with litigation.
All right.
I don't like you tonight, Joe.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Time for a new city attorney.
Oh, no.
So I need to read the executive. Oh, yes, please go ahead.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent H, litigation.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Council President Gale. Excuse me. Second by Councilor Hensley to move into executive session under ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent H, litigation. So I need to read this real quick. The City Council will now recess this meeting to meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation matter. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent H, which allows the council to meet in executive session to discuss those topics. Only representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. The council will adjourn the City Hall conference room to hold its executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the session, we may reconvene the meeting in the City Hall conference room and conduct any further business that needs to be taken care of. With that, we'll move into the...
Do we have to vote to do that?
Then we do the exec session. So we are in exec session. Thank you, Canby.
Good night.